Alright, it's time to create some fire type in Photoshop. Let's begin. The first thing I want you to do is come up here to File, and then select New from the menu. In this tutorial, I'm going to make the fire type quite large. Now, if you need a smaller fire type, it's recommended to make the fire type really big first and then resize it down later. Okay, so for this image, I want you to come in here and for the width, enter in 700. And then for the height, enter in 450. And make sure that's set to pixels, okay, both for the width and the height. Now the resolution, I want you to put in 72. And the color mode will be RGB color. Now for this image, we're going to need the background color to be black. So there's two things we can do here depending on what your setup is right now. If you see black on the background color on your toolbar there, you can see I have black right there for my background. If it's black, then come in here and select background color from the drop down right here, okay? And if it's not black, then after we make the new image, all you have to do is select the paint bucket tool, which is over here, and then fill it in with black. Okay, it's pretty easy to do. Right now, I'm going to go ahead and select background color for the background contents. Okay, and then I'm going to go up here and click OK. And there we go. We have a black background on our new image. I'm going to go ahead and select View and Actual Pixels so we get a full view, full 100% view of our image here. Okay, let's get started here. I'm really excited to do this tutorial. I love this effect. It's just really cool. And you can be creative with it and make your fire look exactly how you want. Okay, you're not depending on a filter. There's no restrictions. The fire will look exactly like you want it to look. And that's what's important. And that is why I designed the fire type like this. Okay, let me show you what I'm talking about right now. The first thing we need to do is select the type mask tool on the toolbar. And it's the horizontal type mask tool. It's right here. Okay, and then after that, go ahead and click on the image to get the cursor. Now you can see here my cursor is quite large. That is because I have the type set to 300 points. You can see up here on the options bar, it's 300 PT, which means points. And I'm going to use the Georgia typeface. Now that is a very popular, it's a common typeface. It's shareware. It's actually, I think it's installed on Windows. So go ahead and look for it if you're on a PC. Macintosh, I'm not sure, but you know what? I've seen it all over the place. You can get it on the web. And so, you know, it's just, that's the typeface that I'm going to use. You can use any typeface you want. Okay, and for the style of my type, I'm going to use just regular. It's not going to be bold. And then 300 points. So if you do, after you do select the typeface you want, just come in here and put in 250 or 350. Make it large. Make it large. And then over here for the for the anti-aliased, how smooth it is, I'm just going to use crisp, just so it's just nice and crisp, and that's just going to work just fine for this. So I'm going to come over here to the image. Now since I've been up there showing you what I've been doing, I'm going to come down here and I have to re-click on the image to bring back the cursor, which is no big deal. But after you have the cursor blinking just like it is, then I want you to go ahead and create your type. I'm going to come in here and go 007, just like that. And then after that, when you have the type you want on the screen, go ahead and press the Enter key on the keyboard. And before I do that, by the way, you're probably wondering why is the background red? The background's going to be the color of the mask. It depends on what color you've set for the mask in Photoshop. By default, it has a sort of like dark red color, but that's all that is. So if you have your type ready, go ahead and press the Enter key on the keyboard. There we go. And the type becomes a selection. That's exactly what we want. Now is a good time to position the type in the center of the image. So come up here and select any of the selection tools on the toolbar. And then come right over to the type, and you can see the cursor change to an arrow and a small selection icon. And then you're ready to click on the selected type and position that where you want on the image. This is just, you know, if you press enter and it's way over here, you can go ahead and just relocate that and just make sure it's in the center. So that's all I'm going to do there. All right, perfect. Next, come over to the toolbar after you've created your type and select the paint bucket tool and fill in the selection with white. Okay, if you already have white, you're all set to go. If not, click on the foreground color on the toolbar and select white as the foreground color and click OK. So come over here and just click on the type, and you can see it'll just fill it all in there. And if it doesn't fill it all in, then you'll have to click on each selection, each selected letter, and then it'll go ahead and fill that in with white. Okay, after that, go ahead and go up here to select and deselect the selection. Now, one of the coolest parts of the tutorial, and it's where you need to use your creative abilities. You got to get those creative juices flowing. And this is one of my favorite parts. Might not be for someone that they feel like, I know some people are out there, they're just like, I'm not creative. Well, this is not that hard. This is not going to be that hard, so don't worry. Okay, I want you to come over to the toolbar and select the smudge tool. Okay, do you know which one it is? Right over on the toolbar, you'll see something that looks like a drop. And that's the blur tool. Well, if you click on the blur tool, out pops a menu, and at the very bottom, we see the smudge tool. There it is. And for this smudge tool, in order to create the effect that we want with the fire, the best way to get the best result, we need to have somewhat of a rough looking brush or a rough tipped brush. Now we can use a soft brush or a circular brush, but to get the best result, the best effect, come up here to the brushes preset picker. And if you have the default brushes installed currently, hopefully you do, come down here and you will find one right after the soft brushes. It looks sort of like this, and it's a splatter brush. Currently it's set to 14 pixels. That is okay. Click on that brush, or you may double click it. If you're not sure if you want to make the brush larger, then only click on it once and then come up here to the master diameter and then adjust its size. I'm going to select it and then come over to the image, and it looks like it could be just a little larger. So I'm going to come back over here to the master diameter, and we are going to make that brush about 30 pixels. That works good for me. And then I'm going to come over to preview the size of the brush, and I can see here it looks pretty good to me. So if you have the splatter brush selected, choose about or input about a 30, maybe a 35 pixel diameter brush right in here. That just makes it a little larger. So if you have all that, then just go ahead and click outside of that to close the preset picker, and then come right over to the image with your new brush. And then maybe you've noticed my brush, it looks like it's showing the actual tip of the brush. To make this change in Photoshop, I think the default setting is only showing a crosshair. But if you want this cursor, the mouse, to actually show the design of the tip of the brush, come up here to Edit. Come down here to Preferences and select General. It's right here, Display Cursors. And where it says Painting Cursors, sometimes the default setting, and some people have it on Precise, and it won't show the brush size when Precise is selected here. And same with Standard, it'll just show a little brush icon. But the way I've been using Photoshop for many years, I always have it on brush size. That way I can actually see how large the brush is, or see what tip I have selected for that brush. So after you have that, go ahead and just click OK. And there you go. You'll have it just like mine. Okay, it's time to get creative. And this is how you do it. Come in here with that tool, with the smudge tool, and I want you to start on the top. Let's just make this really easy for your first time. I want you to come over to the top, or along the side of a top of a letter or number, and then just click right there and scroll up, and you can see we've smeared it. You'll want to do this along the whole top of all the letters. Okay, this is just the first step now. Come right over. I'm going to come to the side here, and we don't want any flat spots on top of the letters or numbers, because then it won't look real. So I'm going to come over here and just scroll up, and I'm going to do scroll up or mouse up or drag up. I'm going to come up here and just keep doing that. Or I can grab just a little bit, and you can wave the mouse to make it look a little wavy like that. And you can do whatever you want. You can make the fire look how you want it to look. There you go. You see that? You can have some low spots, some high spots. And I'll come over to the second O here, and I'll do the same thing. Got to try to do the best I can here. We're doing a live tutorial, so have to use my creative juices as well. And this is such a... I like this method better. You know, the old way of making fire was to use the wind filter, but using the wind filter, you only have, like, in other words, everything will look the same because everybody uses the same wind filter, so everybody's fire type is going to look the same, and that's no good. We have to be unique. We need difference and uniqueness out there, and this is one of the ways you can get that. And I'm going to come over here to the 7, stretch that up a little bit. And again, don't be afraid to wiggle the mouse a little bit as you go up, just to get a kind of a wavy look. This is going to be the fire. It doesn't look like fire right now, but after we finish the result, you're going to be really surprised how this stands out. Try to make it as dynamic as possible, and if you mess up, you don't like it, just go ahead and undo the last move there. There we go, looking pretty good there. Even on the sides here, or diagonal lines and letters and numbers, to make it realistic, you can add fire to those too. Since fire, the flames go up, you know, if the flames go up, then we need to make sure any areas where the flame could go up is where we want to smudge. Okay. I'm just going to go up here. Just going to make sure that's all soft. And about after I've been doing this technique for a little while, I found another method that looks pretty cool. And how, like, you know how like the fire can kind of go underneath something and then come up on the other side? Well, come down to right about below in the dark area, not actually on the letter, but right below it, and just push up, and you can smudge up and create this, like it can be like a burnt type of effect, or it could look like the fire is creeping underneath the letter, and so that's really cool. And I'm not going to stop the video. I'm going to keep it running just like this, just so, you know, I'm not going to cheat. I want you to watch me too. I think if you watch me, that will kind of help you create your own. So I'm not going to cut it off short or anything. All right, here we go. Looking good. Looking good. Looks like it's nice and crispy. Just going to come down here. This is a similar fire technique that I had on my Photoshop 6 Web Power CD-ROM, but I even created a lot more enhancements to make it look a lot better using the layer modes in Photoshop, and I'll show you how that's done in just a minute here. But looking pretty good, looking pretty good. I'll go an extra check, make sure I have no flat spots on the top there. You see I'm showing just a slight corner there on that 7. I just want that straight. I want it to look really good, and I can go back and straighten this out. So this kind of looks like a ghost or something, like snow or whatever. But that looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and go with that. Okay, I like it. Next, we need to create a color balance adjustment layer. Okay, this is real easy to do. Come over to the layers palette, and at the very bottom, you'll see this little round circular icon with a line through it. That is the create new fill or adjustment layer button, and then just click on that, and then from that menu there, select color balance. Okay, the color balance pops up. And you can just move it off to the side if you want. That way you can see in the background what you're doing to the image. Okay, first come down here where it says tone balance and dot shadows. Okay, after you've dotted shadows, I want you to enter up here in the first color levels box, enter in 85. And then in the middle color box there, 0 will work just fine. And then for the last one, do a minus 85. Okay, and then come down here and where it says midtones, dot that. And then for the midtones, we're going to go 85 again. And then we're going to keep that at 0 and then minus 85. And you can start to see the color come into the type here, into the image, and it's starting to look more flamish, like a fire. And if you come over here, dot the highlights option, and now enter in the first box, 85, and the second box will be 0. And the last one, I want you to do about minus 28, 25, or 28. Okay, looking pretty good there. And if you can also experiment. You don't have to go exactly by my settings. These are just the settings that I feel that gave the best result. If you want a little more red, or if you want more yellow, then you would just enhance the yellow or enhance the red, or even enhance the green. Who knows? We could make it look like a swamp thing or whatever. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and click OK. Next, we are going to create some type. We're going to create some black type using the type tool in Photoshop. So come over to the toolbar and select the type tool and select the horizontal type tool. And then click on the image. Okay. And now I want you to type the exact same thing you typed using the type mask tool. Okay. So for me, it's going to be 007. The same thing. And then I'm going to either double click on the layer to select it, or just come in here and select the type. And then I need to change it from white to black. So I'm going to come up here on the options bar, and for the text color, that's going to be black. And then I'll click OK. And then we need to position that type. If you want to deselect it, you can come over here and select another tool. I'm going to select the move tool here. And we need to position that type directly over the type on our background. Just like that. Okay, if you have it like you want it, then let's move on to the next step here. Next, come over to the Layers palette and click on the background layer. And then come up here to Filter, because we're going to blur the background layer. Down to Blur and select Gaussian Blur. Enter in 4.0. You can see I already have 4.0 already selected there. And then after you have that, click OK. Now, come up here to the very top layer, which is our black type layer that we just created in the step before the last. And then come up here to the Layer Mode menu and select Overlay right down here. And voila, we can see our fire starting to take over the text. It's burning it away. But we are not done yet. We need to do a few more steps. So let's come over here and duplicate the background layer. Click on the background layer, drag it to the new layer icon on the Layers palette. There we go. Now we've duplicated the background layer for another special effect, because this tutorial and this effect is all about variations. There's just not one way to create this fire type or one way to make it look. And the purpose of the tutorial was not to make all your type look like it is on the screen now. It's to make it about 30 different variations of fire type. Okay, so why don't you come up to the very top layer here where we have our overlaid black type layer and just make it invisible. Okay, and you can see it change a little bit. Now we're going to experiment with some different variations with the duplicate layer of the background. Click down here where it says background copy. Click on that, and then come up here on the overlay modes here, on the layer modes menu, highlight it just like that. Click on it, select one of the options, and then when it's highlighted, come over here on the tool, or not on the toolbar, I'm sorry, on the keyboard with the arrows and tap the arrows down so we can go through each one of the blending modes. And as you go through them, you will see the effect change. So these are just different variations that we can have with our fire. There you go. That's all I was doing, was just tapping the down arrow key on the keyboard to go through the different blending modes. I'm going to go ahead and set that back up to normal. And we have one more. Up here on the very top layer, which is our black type layer, I want you to make that visible now. So we get that back. And the reason for the black type layer, if you haven't noticed, is it gives the fire a little more shape and sharpness and character. You can see that we can see more of the edges of the type with the black type layer on. Okay, if I turn it off, then everything's a little more smooth. It looks like it's a little blurred out. But with it on, it looks like we actually have the type on fire. Okay, and let me show you something else here. Activate that black type layer there, and then come over to the Layer Blending Modes menu and select Dissolve. So with Dissolve, we can create sort of this burnt edge type look around our type, which looks really cool. We have the fire in the background, and it also makes the type stand out more if you wanted this effect. Sometimes, depending on what color background you have, the text might stand out more using the Dissolve effect than it would the Overlay effect. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and set that back on Overlay and show you another really cool thing. This is one of my favorite parts of the tutorial, and it's moving around the black type layer. I'm going to come up here. It looks like the Move tool is already selected. So if it's not, select the Move tool and then come over to the image and then move around that layer. And you can see we have different variations here we can do. I can even come way down here or go up here. And if you're not showing the edges of your type like you want, then you would move this type layer to make those edges appear a little bit more. You see that? You can see the black type there on the 7. But if I have it more like this, it's not so noticeable, and having it not really noticeable may be an effect that you're looking for. So that is really cool. Experiment with that. And so it's unlimited possibilities. Your fire doesn't have to be fire color. It could be all kinds of different colors, but experiment with the layers. And since we've made an adjustment layer on this tutorial and on this image, that we can always go back to it. All you have to do is come over here right on this adjustment layer and then double click on the layer thumbnail, and the color balance will come right back up, and you can go ahead and adjust the colors here. You don't necessarily have to enter in an input like we did, but you can come in here and adjust the sliders. Okay, and look at that. See, we're already getting different results. I'm going to go and enter in 0 for the middle again, and then come over here to highlights and adjust the highlights. We have magenta. I can come over here a little more, or go over to the green. Come over here to cyan and see what we can create. Some green looking, melting, whatever. You can just use your imagination. So there you go. That is the type, the fire type, and how to create it in Photoshop.